Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Today's video is going to be all about my favorite makeup brushes. So I recently posted a brush declutter video. I will have it linked down below. And a lot of people asked in that video if I would also share one talking all about my favorite brushes. So I have my favorite face brushes and also my favorite eye brushes that I'm going to be sharing about. So a lot of brushes to get through, so why don't we go ahead and get started. Okay, so if you are wondering about this slightly different eye look that you see on me, this went up in yesterday's video, I think it's gonna be, where I was doing my Dose of Colors collab with a couple different friends, and I tried out the negative space, negative liner trend. So if you want to see me attempting to do that on camera, I'll have it linked down below. I couldn't decide if I felt confident enough in the makeup to go ahead and film another video, but then I was like, you know what, it's fine, and screw it. It has a corkscrew on it. I didn't even plan that. I didn't even plan that, but that one was pretty good. Okay, so anyways, jumping into it, my favorite makeup brushes. I love talking about makeup brushes. I love makeup brushes. If you did see my declutter, I think it's pretty clear how much I love brushes. So starting off first, I really tried to grab one or two brushes like in each category to share like my top favorites for this video, my most used. Okay, so for foundation, I have two here and they're both from Sigma. The first one is the flat Kabuki, the F80. I mean, the F80 is my OG. I think she was my first ever foundation brush that I ever purchased. I used to just put foundation on with my hands. True story. But this is a fantastic foundation brush. I have several in my collection. It was my first, like I said, my first high-end brush that I purchased, so I really do enjoy this one. And then the other one that I use really frequently is the 3D HD Max Kabuki. And this one is also from Sigma, so you can see this guy is just a little bit bigger, and I just kind of go back and forth on which one I prefer. This one I feel like covers more space in a quicker amount of time, but the F80 is just like my OG, but those are two great foundation brushes. If I'm gonna apply powder, which I have been more recently, I've just kind of been applying a setting powder all over my face. This is the brush that I use. This is from Morphe, and this is the E3. It's fluffy, but it kind of comes to this point up here, and I just feel like it's really quick and easy to just dust powder all over my face. So a lot of times if you watch like my Instagram tutorials and I'm putting powder on, this is the brush I'm using. And then for concealer, I have two main brushes that I use for that. The first here is the Sephora 57. I talk about this brush so much. I love this brush. It's the Airbrush Concealer. I kind of just bought it on a whim one day at Sephora. I was like, I need a brush for that concealer thing that everybody does. I need to do that too. And so this brush said concealer on it, and I was like, sold. And I bought it, but I actually love it. I use it so much. I just think it's really nice to get right up in there underneath the under eyes, and it's just one of my favorite brushes in general. And then the other brush that I use really frequently is another one here from Sigma. This is the Concealer Blend Kabuki, the F79. This one is a bit larger, as you can see. So a lot of times if I'm doing like my face first, I'm doing my foundation and my concealer, I'll use this brush because it's really quick and I can get everything done. If I do my eyes first and then I move on to my face and I'm only putting the concealer on my under eye, I'm not also using it as an eye primer, then I typically use the Sephora 57, but those two are my most used concealer brushes. I also wanted to say I am the best beauty blogger around. And I forgot to mention that I do have a code with Sigma. I always forget this, and sometimes I even forget to put it on the screen. I try to remember and then I forget, and then people ask me my code. I do always have it in the description box, but I am a Sigma affiliate. You're gonna see a lot of Sigma brushes. They're one of my favorite brands, and I've been buying from them for a super long time, but my code is just Samantha at Sigma for 10% off. So if you want it, thought I'd throw that in here because I always forget, because I'm the best. Okay, so moving on, this is a brush that I use nearly every single day, and it's what I use to set my concealer. So I put my powder on underneath my under eyes, and it's also from Morphe, and it is the E49. So here's what she looks like. So it's like thicker, but then it also comes to a pointed tip here, and I just dip it into my powder, and then I go really close underneath my lash line to smooth out any lines, and then I kind of hit it on the side with the powder, and then I just tap it along. Boom, really simple. It's a small task, but it's one that I do every single day, and this is the brush that I reach for the most for it. So for contour, I kind of go back and forth between two. One here is from Sigma. It's the Powder Sweep. It's the F06. So here's what she looks like. When I got this brush, I wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to use it for. And I think it was Nikki Tutorials maybe that I saw use it as a contour, but it's so small and precise that it can just get right into your cheekbones to make a really nice contour. And then the other one that I use is from the Moda Metallic line, and this is their contour brush. So this one is a little bit more, like it's a little bit bigger, but it's still dense, and then it also comes to the point. And again, it's just nice and small. You can get right in there for your contour. For bronzer, I have two favorite bronzing brushes. One here is from Sigma. It's the Large Powder F30. So again, I mean, this says it's a powder brush. I use it as bronzer. It's just a nice fluffy brush, but it's not like too big, it's not too much, especially if I'm using kind of like a darker bronzer and I want to make sure I want to be more precise. This is the brush that I'll use because I feel like it just gives me that nice bronze, if you will. If I'm using one where I'm like, I'm just gonna go ham on this bronzer, I use my Big Daddy from Morphe. This is the R2. This is a very, very large bronzer brush, and like sometimes I just have to be careful because it's big and it can get out of control in a hurry. So if I'm using a bronzer that's maybe a little bit lighter and I know that I need to build it up, or I'm just not as concerned about it, I'll reach for this one. I mean, it gets the job done, it gets the job done quick, and I love this brush, but you gotta be careful with it. So moving on to blush, I have two blush brushes that I use most frequently. This one here is from Sigma. It's the Large Angled Contour, the F40. This one is just like my little mini guy, but I have a full size of it as well. Both of the brushes that I'm gonna mention are just these like angle brushes here, but I really love them for blush, and I feel like they do great things. So that one's from Sigma. The other one is from Morphe. It's the E4. I remember Jaclyn Hill saying this was like the best blush brush ever of all time. So of course I bought it. And I do really like it. I think it's a nice blush brush. You can see I used it today. And I really enjoyed this one as well. This one is super, super soft also. But yeah, these definitely are my two favorite blush brushes, and they're very similar to one another. A lot of people do ask me, you know, is it better to spend more money on Sigma brushes? Is it better to go the more discounted route for the Morphe brushes? And I think it really just depends on what it is that you need. When I was starting out as a beginner and I wasn't really sure about a lot of things, I was buying cheaper brushes that wouldn't last me as long, but I was still learning on them almost. And then I started buying from Sigma, and you just get really high quality with Sigma. Like, none of my Sigma brushes have ever fallen apart or anything like that. They have a 2-year warranty on all of their brushes. They're just really solid brushes, and they're gonna last you a long time. But Morphe does have some good brushes. I would say with Morphe, if you buy things from the Elite line, so it would start with an E, like this one is the E4, they're a little bit pricier, but not too much. Those are really good brushes. The gunmetal brushes, if they still have that set, those are good brushes. Their rose gold set, those are good brushes. Some of them that start with M, I can tell kind of fall apart a little bit faster or get scratchier after you wash them, but they still have good brushes in certain lines. But you'll see a lot of Sigma, a lot of Morphe. I'm not a Morphe affiliate, I am Sigma, but I just like both of their brushes, so that's all. Okay, so moving on to highlight. You picked out 3 highlight brushes, girl. You really couldn't narrow it down to 2? Nope. Okay, so for highlight, probably my favorite highlight brush is the Sigma F03. This is a great highlight brush. I love it. If you saw my declutter, I had like 7 of these brushes. I decluttered a few, but I think I still kept like 3 or 4. Like, it's crazy. A lot of people compare this one to the Anastasia highlight brush. It's like the A23 or something like that. I don't have that one, but by looking at it, it does seem pretty similar. It is really dense, but it's also small and just precise for your highlight. I think it's wonderful. Another one from Sigma, this is the tapered highlighter. This is the F35. Again, I have a couple of these as well. I like it because you can hit the highlight right on the point. You can kind of brush it on the side here, so you can kind of do whatever it is that you want to do. It's also really nice. This one here I think is nice for nose highlight because I feel like it's really precise to get down your nose. And then the other one that I really do use this one quite a bit, it's from Luxie. It's the 522 tapered highlight brush. I got this in like a subscription bag, but then I also got another one, and I did keep them both because I really do like these. This one is a very fluffy brush. I like this one for highlights that are super, super intense, like the Persona highlight that I have on today. Very, very intense, because it's really easy to just dip into this, and then you can kind of just it off real quick, so you're not going like too overboard, even though you might be thinking differently right now. With like the F03, this is really dense. So if I have highlighters that are a little bit more challenging to use, or I just want to like really get a lot of oomph out of it, you can really take this one and kind of dig it into the highlight to get more out there. But yeah, I love all three of these brushes. I couldn't narrow it down, clearly. Alrighty, let's move over to eye brushes. So this is a really random thing, but it's something that I do every single day, so I wanted to mention these brushes. So I have two here, and these are for the purpose of laying down any of my like first shadows, setting my eye primer with like a white or shadow, something like that. I do it almost every single day that I do my eye makeup, and these are the brushes that I use the most for it. So this first one here is also from the Moda Metallic line. It is the Super Crease brush, and then the other one is from Real Techniques. It's the Deluxe Concealer brush. They are basically the exact same thing, but I just like something, like, I don't know what it is about this kind of like rounded style, but I use them almost every single day. So I want to tell you about them. Okay, so for my big blending brushes, I feel like these are super important. I picked out three that I absolutely love, and they are all from different companies, which is neat. But I think that this is the brush that I grab first when I'm doing any sort of eye look. Like if you watch this tutorial from yesterday's video, the first brush I use is a big blending brush. You can just kind of be a little bit careless with it, just throwing it into the crease, just mixing things up on there. You know, you don't want to do anything too precise with this brush because it is bigger, but it's just a must-have brush in my collection. So the first one is from Sigma. It is the E40, the tapered blending brush. I mean, again, this is one of my first brushes from Sigma, and once I got the E40, there's just no going back. I like it because it is a big blending brush, but out of the three that I'm sharing, this one is probably the most precise. It's not as precise as like a smaller one or the E25 or anything like that, but I still feel like I have more control with this one. Another one that I absolutely love is from Morphe. It's from their gunmetal line. This is the G24. So again, it's just a big blending brush, but you can see it's a little bit, like it's not as firm as the E40, but it is also really soft, which I do enjoy, but it just blends shadows so well onto the eyes. I really enjoy this brush, and I do need to see if they have the gunmetal line still available, because I would repurchase another one of these brushes because I feel like I wash it constantly. And then another one that I have here is from Bdellium Tools. Bdellium Tools is a brand that I was introduced to fairly recently, and I've been very impressed with their brushes. They have really, really good quality, I think. This one here is the 785 tapered blending brush. This one, honestly, out of the three that I'm sharing, this one is probably like the fluffiest, but it's also the softest, and this is the one that I used for this eye look today. It is just so quick and so easy to apply that first shadow into your crease. I really enjoy this brush. Again, this is another brush that I would repurchase to have another one on hand for. And then for the smaller blending brushes, I have the Sigma E25 like I was talking about. So here's what the E25 looks like. And again, you know, if you watched yesterday's tutorial, I used the Bdellium Tools first to put down some of the lighter shades. And then I take a darker shade and put it on this, pack that shadow onto the outer part of my eye, and then start to work it in. It's just smaller, it's more precise, you have more control over where that shadow is going. And I have so many E25s, it's crazy, but I have to use it like every single day pretty much. So there's that. And then there is a pretty good dupe though from Bdellium Tools. This is the 776 blending brush. So you can see it's very similar to the E25. I'll put them up together so you can see them. The Bdellium Tools might just be like a little bit wider, a little bit fatter maybe, but they are very similar to one another. And again, it's just a brush that I have to have pretty much daily. And then one more brush that I wanted to mention, I put this one in my latest makeup monthly in my favorite section because it's just become one of my go-to brushes. It's also from Sigma. It's the Firm Blender E44. Now this one is kind of different because it's truly like a blending brush, but also a detailed brush in one. I don't know how to explain it, but you can pack shadows on with this, but at the same time, you can also blend them. It comes up to a point, it's like firm, but it's also, you can still use it to blend. This brush is so cool, and I really, really like this brush. I was using it in a tutorial the other day that I posted on Instagram, and someone said, what was that first brush that you used? I was like, it's the E44, and it's so good. It's just one of my favorite brushes, and I find myself reaching for it more and more lately. Alrighty, moving along, I have some more eye brushes to recommend. These are kind of more of like the flat shader brushes or to apply a shadow all over the lid. So two of my favorites from Sigma Beauty are the E54 and then also the E55. These are really, really similar to one another. The E55 is just a little bit wider and just a little bit on the shorter side, but this one here is the E54. This one here is the E55. Hopefully I said that right. Yes, I did. But again, these are just some of my favorites to pack shadows all over the lid with, and I have multiples of these as well. Another one as well, this again is kind of random, but I use it so often. This is from Sigma. It's the Cut Crease E62. I use this to apply an eyelid primer onto my lid. If I'm not using like my concealer, if I'm using an actual eyelid primer, this is the brush that I use, and I have a couple of those as well. And then this next one here is from Sigma. It's the Cream Color E58. And again, this is really great for, I don't use cream shadows a ton, but it's really nice for like foiled shadows or even like glitter. Like I feel like it just really gets on in there and helps to pack them onto the lid. This next one here is the Sigma Concealer, the F70. I use this a lot for my cut crease work. It's really similar to the other brush that I just showed, but it's more rounded on the tip here, and I feel like I can cut the crease better with it. I'm still learning how to do that technique, but I use this brush quite a bit for that one. These next ones here are really similar to one another. Again, it's just one's a little bit bigger, one's a little bit smaller. This is the Sigma E56, the shader lid brush. Again, I feel like this is really nice for like shimmer shadows, glittery shadows, foiled shadows, anything like that. And it's also really nice and small if I'm doing like a halo eye or a spotlight eye. I often reach for this because it's really precise to get right in the center of my eye there. And then this one is even smaller. It's the shader inner corner from Sigma, the E46. So you can see really similar, but again, if you just want to get a little bit of the inner corner in there, or you actually want the inner corner, or again, just if you're working with any sort of like detailed work and you need a really precise brush, this one's pretty darn good. Then the final brushes that I want to talk about are more like detailed brushes for like lower lash and things like that. I always use a pencil brush pretty much every single day. I'm reaching for a pencil brush to smudge out shadows on my lower lash line. I most often am reaching for my Sigma pencil brush. This is the E30. So again, just a pretty standard pencil brush. It's nice and firm so I can really get under the lash line and get those shadows on there. Another one is from Morphe. It's the M507. Again, really similar, just another pencil brush. This one isn't quite as firm, and if I'm really doing like smoking any shadows out on the lower lash line, I'll reach for this because it doesn't have that precision of the E30, and I can be a little bit sloppier with it. And then you guys have probably seen this brush in like every single one of my tutorials because I use it pretty much daily. This is the Morphe E36. This is just like a little tiny baby brush. I use this one for my inner corner highlight and also a brow bone highlight, and it's my favorite. I don't know why I don't have several of these as well, but luckily it's pretty much the same color a lot, so it's really easy to wipe it off and then use, you know, it's not like I'm using dark colors or anything for my inner corner, but I love this brush as well. So those are a few of my favorite detail brushes, but after that, that's gonna do it for my most used makeup brushes. Okay, so that is everything for my most used and some of my favorite makeup brushes. I again will leave everything linked down below as I always do in my videos. If you're interested in any of these brushes, I'll try to find the links to everything and have them down in my description box. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of my favorite brushes. I hope that you found this video helpful, and if you did, I hope that you'll give this one a thumbs up. I hope that you'll also consider subscribing before you go, and I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's video.